The alien princess rejected all suitors, until a human caught her off guard. Princess Lyra of Zyphora sat on the edge of the floating balcony, her long silver hair flowing in the gentle breeze above the clouds. The city of Zyphora stretched endlessly around her, a magnificent sight of glass towers and glowing energy bridges that connected floating platforms. Ships from distant worlds moved like fireflies among the clouds, and the sky shimmered in green and violet hues that only Zyphora's atmosphere could create. Yet, even in all this beauty, Lyra felt restless. She was known throughout the galaxy not only for her beauty, with eyes that mirrored the skies, but for her sharp mind, courage, and fierce independence. For years, suitors from powerful alien houses had come to win her favor, bringing gifts, promises, and displays of strength. Yet she had rejected every one of them. Some were arrogant, believing their wealth and power made them worthy. Others were clever, hoping to impress her with logic and technology. But Lyra could see through all of them. She wanted more than status or wealth. She wanted someone who could think, adapt, and surprise her. Her father, King Vorin, often warned her that her stubbornness would harm the kingdom. "Alliances are important, Lyra," he said. "If you continue to reject every suitor, our enemies may see weakness. You must choose wisely." But Lyra only smiled. "Father, a true ally cannot be forced. They must prove themselves in ways beyond words and gold." The kingdom's council had grown impatient, and they finally persuaded King Vorin to announce a grand tournament. It would not be just a show of strength or intelligence, but a combination of challenges: strategy games, problem-solving trials, and tests of courage. The best suitor would earn Lyra's respect, and perhaps her hand, though the princess herself saw the tournament more as a test of others than a path to love. The day of the tournament arrived with a sky so bright it seemed as if the clouds themselves were made of light. Princess Lyra moved among the contestants, who were already showing off their abilities in the training arenas. There were beings of all shapes, sizes, and species, tall ones with shimmering skin, creatures with multiple eyes, and even those who could manipulate energy with a gesture. Lyra observed them all, noting their strategies, their mistakes, and their overconfidence. They were all extraordinary, yet she remained unconvinced. None had yet shown the quality she sought. Among the crowd, an unexpected figure appeared, a human. Humans were rare on Zyphora, considered primitive compared to the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. The ambassador introduced him as Ethan, a young man from Earth. Most of the alien spectators barely acknowledged him, dismissing him as a curiosity. He was not tall, not muscular, and carried no weapons or energy devices. But there was something in the way he looked around, quietly studying every detail that caught Lyra's attention. Unlike the others, he did not boast or display his strength. He simply watched, learning. Lyra frowned slightly, curious. "What brings a human here?" she asked when she had a private moment with him. Ethan bowed respectfully. "Princess, I am here as part of my delegation. I did not come to compete. I wish only to observe and learn about Zyphora." Lyra tilted her head. There was honesty in his tone. It was rare, even among the aliens, and it intrigued her. The tournament began in earnest. The first challenge tested agility and strategy. Contestants had to navigate a floating obstacle course while avoiding energy traps and reaching a central platform. Many of the elite aliens excelled, using their speed, multiple limbs, or energy shields. Lyra herself demonstrated skill beyond expectation, leaping and dodging with precision, analyzing each trap and solving the challenge as much with her mind as her body. The other competitors watched in awe, realizing that the princess was not only a royal figure but a formidable mind and athlete. Ethan did not compete in this challenge. He stayed at the edge, taking notes and observing the contestants. Some laughed at him, whispering that humans were too slow and weak for any meaningful trial. But Lyra noticed the way he pointed out patterns in the traps to himself, sketching ideas and potential strategies in a small data pad. He was thinking in ways the others were not. The next challenge was a puzzle that required both teamwork and quick problem-solving. Contestants were paired in groups to unlock a series of complex energy locks that changed configuration constantly. Lyra chose to watch rather than join. The alien suitors, used to relying on strength or authority, tried to command their partners, often causing confusion and delays. Their arrogance led to mistakes, and many groups failed the puzzle entirely. When it became clear that no alien contestant could complete the puzzle, Ethan stepped forward. Lyra raised an eyebrow, curious. He approached the puzzle with nothing but his pad and a calm expression. Unlike the others, he did not try to overpower the mechanism or use advanced technology. Instead, he analyzed it logically, thinking step by step, testing different approaches, and adjusting his method when the solution failed. Within moments, the locks aligned and the puzzle completed. The crowd gasped. Even Lyra's eyes widened in surprise. "You solved it without any special powers," she said, stepping closer. Ethan nodded humbly. "I observed patterns, I considered possibilities. I did not assume force or technology would always work." Lyra smiled faintly. There was something refreshing about this approach. He had caught her off guard, and she felt a spark of admiration she had not experienced before. The following days of the tournament pushed contestants to their limits. There were survival trials in simulated storms, diplomatic challenges with holographic leaders, and logic tests that even the most intelligent aliens struggled to solve. Ethan continued to participate in the problem-solving exercises when allowed. He did not fight or compete in physical challenges unless necessary, but his calm thinking, creativity, and courage were consistently impressive. He often suggested solutions that no one else had considered, and his approach to teamwork, listening, analyzing, and adapting, stood out sharply against the arrogance and rigidity of the alien contestants. Lyra found herself drawn to observe him more closely. His presence was different from the others. There was a sense of honesty and humility, yet also quiet strength. He did not seek glory, only to understand and contribute. Each time he succeeded where others failed, her respect grew. She began to wonder if perhaps she had underestimated humans entirely. They were not flashy or powerful in the conventional sense, but they were clever, adaptable, and courageous. One evening, after a long day of challenges, Lyra approached Ethan while the other contestants celebrated or complained about their failures. They walked together along a floating bridge above the glowing city, the sky reflecting shades of orange and violet from Zyphora's twin suns. The city hummed with energy below them, but in that moment the world felt quiet. "You seem different from the others," Lyra said. "Most come here to show strength or impress, but you observe, you think, you act with intention." Ethan smiled slightly. "I try to understand before I act, that is all. I have much to learn about your world, Princess, but I hope my approach shows that humans can contribute, even in ways you might not expect." Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words. For the first time, she realized she had met someone who challenged her assumptions, not through force or authority, but through thought and courage. The tournament's final challenge was announced, a test of ingenuity and moral decision-making. Contestants were presented with a simulated scenario in which they had to save a colony from disaster, using limited resources and making difficult choices. Lyra observed the preparations. Alien suitors relied on protocols, formulas, and their advanced technology. Ethan, however, considered the people in the simulation, understanding their needs and motivations, and adjusted his strategy in ways that were creative and unexpected. When the simulation concluded, his solution had saved the colony efficiently, without unnecessary harm and with clever use of limited tools. Lyra could not hide her astonishment. No alien had thought to consider the situation in such a human way, practical, compassionate, and inventive at once. She realized that her criteria for a worthy suitor were not just about strength, intelligence, or tradition. It was about adaptability, moral courage, and the ability to see possibilities beyond what was expected. And in that moment, Ethan embodied all of those qualities. The crowd cheered for the contestants, but Lyra felt her attention entirely on the human who had quietly surprised everyone. For the first time, she wondered if the person who would truly catch her off guard might not be from one of the noble alien houses, but from a planet she had always considered simple and insignificant. She felt curiosity, respect, and something else she could not yet name. The tournament had been meant to test others, but it had also tested her, challenging her expectations and prejudices. And in the process, a spark of possibility had ignited, one that might change the course of her life, and perhaps the relationship between Zyphora and humanity forever. As the sun set behind the floating city, painting the sky in brilliant shades of violet and gold, Princess Lyra watched Ethan speak with the other contestants, calmly explaining his methods and helping those who had struggled. She smiled faintly to herself. It was unusual, unexpected, and intriguing. For the first time in her life, she felt that a human might not only meet her standards, but also surprise her in ways she could never have imagined. The tournament was far from over, and many challenges still awaited, but Lyra knew one thing: everything had changed. A human had entered her world, quietly yet boldly, and she could no longer dismiss him. The thought lingered in her mind as she returned to her chambers that night. Perhaps greatness did not only come from power or status. Perhaps it came from courage, intelligence, and heart. And perhaps, just perhaps, she had found someone who possessed all three the day after the first round of the tournament. Princess Lyra awoke with a sense of anticipation she had not felt in years. The memory of the human, Ethan, solving the puzzle and impressing everyone, lingered in her mind. She could not stop thinking about his calm confidence, his clever solutions, and the way he seemed to look at problems differently from anyone she had ever known. The tournament was meant to test the suitors, yet she realized that she, too, was being tested, challenged to rethink her assumptions about strength, intelligence, and worth. Scifi's city floated silently above the clouds in the early morning, with energy bridges humming as they connected towers and platforms. Lyra walked along the balcony of the palace, her mind racing. The alien suitors had returned from the first set of challenges, and they were restless. Most of them whispered to one another, frustrated at their inability to impress the princess, while a few tried to strategize for the next challenge. They did not notice her observing them, calculating the ways they failed to anticipate surprises. Ethan, as always, arrived quietly, not with a show of force or importance, but with curiosity and respect. He greeted Lyra politely, bowing slightly. "Good morning, Princess," he said. "I hope the day finds you well." Lyra studied him for a moment. He did not appear nervous or out of place. In fact, there was a calmness about him that the aliens lacked, a grounded confidence that came not from strength or status, but from thought and observation. "Good morning," she replied. "Are you ready for today's challenges?" Ethan nodded. "I am ready, though I do not expect to compete in all of them. I have learned a lot from watching the others." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued. "And yet yesterday you solved what they could not. You have a talent for thinking in ways they cannot." Ethan smiled. "I only look for patterns. I observe. That seems to help where others fail." The next challenge was announced shortly afterward. This one was designed to test teamwork, leadership, and adaptability. Groups were to navigate a simulated disaster scenario, where a colony on a distant planet faced destruction from environmental hazards. Contestants were required to save as many citizens as possible while managing limited resources and unpredictable events. Most of the alien suitors immediately began asserting their dominance, assigning tasks to others, and attempting to control every decision. Chaos followed. Lyra watched quietly from above as the group struggled. They were skilled, intelligent, and resourceful, but too rigid, too focused on their protocols. They failed to consider the unexpected, which was the key to success. Ethan, meanwhile, stepped forward when the coordinator looked unsure about human participation. He moved with calm determination, observing the simulation carefully before speaking to a small group of confused aliens. "Follow me," he said softly, but with authority. "We need to think about what is happening, not just what the rules suggest. Pay attention to what the citizens need first." The aliens glanced at him, skeptical, but had no better plan. Ethan began assigning tasks based on logic and observation, adjusting them as new obstacles arose. His group moved with efficiency, saving the simulated citizens and adapting to sudden disasters in ways that seemed almost instinctive. Lyra's eyes widened. She had seen many skilled competitors, but none had displayed this level of insight and adaptability. The aliens, on the other hand, were still arguing and debating protocols, losing precious time. Ethan's human thinking, creative, practical, and responsive, was proving far superior to their rigid approaches. For the first time, she felt a deep respect for a human being, not just curiosity. When the simulation ended, Ethan's team had saved the maximum number of citizens, with minimal resources wasted. He had coordinated the group without commanding them harshly, showing patience, creativity, and understanding. The crowd erupted into applause, but Lyra noticed that the alien leaders were whispering to each other, unsettled by the success of a human in a competition meant for the elite. Lyra approached Ethan after the challenge. "You do not seem fazed by them," she said, gesturing to the alien contestants who were muttering among themselves. Ethan shrugged slightly. I focus on the task, not on impressing others. Sometimes the calmest mind achieves the best results. Lyra felt a smile tug at her lips. He was right. The other contestants had failed because they let pride, expectation, and arrogance guide them. He had succeeded by thinking clearly and caring about what truly mattered. Over the next few days, the tournament continued with increasingly difficult trials. There were survival exercises in artificial storms that mimicked Zyphora's harshest weather patterns, tests of logic that required complex calculations under time pressure, and negotiations with holographic leaders where empathy and understanding were as valuable as intelligence. Ethan continued to surprise Lyra and the audience alike. In one particularly challenging trial, contestants were placed on a floating platform in the middle of an artificial storm, tasked with securing energy nodes that could stabilize the city's power. The aliens immediately tried to control the situation with brute force and their advanced technologies, but the storm was unpredictable. Some nodes shifted location, while others became temporarily inaccessible due to energy fluctuations. Chaos erupted among the alien suitors, each blaming the others or attempting to assert authority. Ethan remained calm. He observed the movement of the nodes, the pattern of the storm, and the mistakes of the other competitors. He quickly calculated a path that minimized risk, coordinated with willing participants, and adjusted the plan when a node moved unexpectedly. By the end of the trial, he had successfully secured all nodes, stabilizing the platform and completing the challenge faster and more efficiently than anyone expected. Lyra could not hide her admiration. She realized that Ethan's strengths were not flashy or conventional. He did not possess multiple limbs, energy powers, or advanced technology. Instead, he relied on observation, reasoning, adaptability, and a deep sense of empathy. These qualities, she realized, were often underestimated, even by her. He had quietly demonstrated that humans could excel where others failed, not through superiority, but through perspective and heart. One evening, after a long day of challenges, Lyra invited Ethan to walk with her along the palace's floating bridges. The sky was painted in shades of violet and gold, the twin suns casting long reflections on the city below. "You continue to surprise me," she said softly. "I expected humans to be limited, but you consistently prove that you are not." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. "Perhaps humans are underestimated because they are different. They approach problems in ways others do not expect. I suppose it only surprises those who assume everyone thinks alike." Lyra nodded, pondering his words. Their conversations became more frequent. Lyra found herself seeking Ethan's perspective, valuing his insight in ways she rarely did with the alien contestants. She realized that her judgments, though fair in her culture, had been shaped by expectations that favored tradition and power over creativity and courage. Ethan had shown her a new way to see the galaxy, and she found the experience invigorating. The alien suitors noticed the growing connection between Lyra and the human. Some were angered or jealous, unable to comprehend why the princess would consider a human worthy of attention. Others were cautious, realizing that Ethan's quiet brilliance was a force they could not ignore. The court was abuzz with speculation, though Lyra remained focused on the tournament itself and the challenges yet to come. The most demanding trial was announced next, a combined test of strategy, morality, and quick thinking. Contestants were placed in a simulation where they had to negotiate peace between two warring colonies on a distant planet, while also preventing an environmental disaster that threatened both populations. The challenge required understanding the perspectives of all parties, anticipating moves, and making decisions that balanced ethics and practicality. Many alien suitors struggled, relying on protocols, intimidation, or technology rather than careful consideration. Ethan approached the trial with his usual calm focus. He listened to the concerns of each colony, considered the resources available, and anticipated potential conflicts. He proposed creative solutions that others had not imagined, balancing immediate needs with long-term sustainability. When the simulation concluded, both colonies were safe, and the conflict was resolved peacefully. The audience erupted in applause, while alien leaders exchanged glances, unsettled by a human-esque consistent success. Lyra's heart raced, though she did not fully understand why. She had seen many impressive beings, but Ethan's combination of intelligence, empathy, and courage was unique. She realized that her standards for a suitor had changed. It was no longer about power, status, or even brilliance in the conventional sense. It was about insight, adaptability, and heart, the qualities Ethan possessed in abundance. That night, Lyra and Ethan met again on the palace balcony. The city glowed beneath them, and the stars of Zyphora sparkled above. "You continue to defy expectations," Lyra said quietly. "I had assumed humans were limited in what they could achieve, but you see possibilities I did not even consider." Ethan smiled faintly. "Perhaps it is because humans are used to uncertainty. We cannot rely on power or rules alone. We must adapt, think, and care." Lyra nodded, feeling a connection she had never felt with any other suitor. For the first time, she realized that her fascination with him was more than curiosity or respect. She felt a sense of admiration and trust that was rare in her life. Ethan had quietly changed the way she saw the galaxy, her people, and herself. And she wondered, with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty, what would happen next. The tournament was far from over, and more challenges awaited. Yet Lyra felt a growing certainty. This human, so different from all others, had earned her attention in ways she could not ignore. He had caught her off guard, not with flashy displays or arrogance, but with intelligence, courage, and heart. And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt that someone might truly be worthy of her respect, and perhaps something more. The days passed quickly on Zyphora, and the tournament continued to test the contestants in ways more demanding than ever before. Princess Lyra had watched humans and aliens alike face trials of skill, intelligence, and courage, yet none had impressed her as much as Ethan. The human had quietly demonstrated ingenuity, patience, and moral strength, earning her respect with every challenge. The alien suitors grew more frustrated with each success he achieved, while Lyra found herself thinking of him constantly, intrigued by his calm confidence and clever solutions. The next challenge was announced by the Royal Council: a survival trial in the orbital dome, a massive rotating arena that simulated the harshest environments Zyphora could imagine. Competitors were to navigate a series of changing climates, scorching heat, freezing winds, and sudden electrical storms, while retrieving energy cores scattered throughout the arena. It was a test of endurance, strategy, and adaptability. Most alien suitors immediately relied on their physical abilities or technological tools to survive. Ethan, by contrast, approached the trial differently. As the participants entered the dome, Lyra observed from above, her eyes following Ethan closely. He moved with careful observation, noting the layout of the arena and the positions of the cores. Unlike the others, he did not rush, nor did he rely on flashy displays of strength. Instead, he calculated his moves step by step, watching the patterns of the artificial storms and shifting terrain. His calm and logical approach allowed him to avoid hazards that tripped up the more advanced contestants. When one of the alien suitors attempted to seize an energy core forcefully, the unstable platform beneath him gave way, sending him sliding across the arena. Ethan adjusted his route instantly, helping a few struggling participants when necessary, all while maintaining his own pace. His combination of observation, empathy, and clever thinking allowed him to complete the retrieval of the energy cores faster and more efficiently than anyone else. Lyra felt a pang of surprise and admiration. Ethan's abilities were not extraordinary in the traditional sense, but they were extraordinary in a way she had never expected. He did not rely on inherent power or alien technology. He relied on his mind, adaptability, and understanding of others. It was a stark reminder to Lyra that human ingenuity could rival, or even surpass, the advanced capabilities of Zyphora's elite. After the trial, Lyra approached Ethan as he exited the arena. He was slightly winded but composed, brushing dust from his clothes. "You moved quickly yet carefully," she said. "Most of the contestants relied on force or gadgets. You relied on observation and thought. I admire that." Ethan smiled faintly. "I suppose it is because I have learned that rushing often leads to mistakes. Paying attention, adjusting when necessary, and helping others can achieve the best results." Lyra nodded, realizing that his philosophy was not only effective but also rare among the competitors she had encountered. The next phase of the tournament was even more challenging. Contestants were assigned to negotiate a delicate political dispute on a simulated colony, where two factions were on the verge of conflict. The challenge required not only intelligence and strategy, but also moral judgment and diplomacy. Alien suitors attempted to dominate with authority, relying on their technology and status to force compliance. Ethan, in contrast, listened carefully to each side, asking questions and considering perspectives they had overlooked. Lyra observed from a control tower as Ethan guided the factions toward a peaceful resolution. He proposed compromises that addressed the needs of both sides, while also planning contingencies for potential sabotage or unforeseen events. The other contestants watched, some in disbelief, as the simulation ended successfully with minimal conflict. Ethan had achieved what none of the advanced aliens could, a solution that combined logic, empathy, and creativity. The princess could not hide her amazement. She realized that what set humans apart was not physical strength or advanced technology, but the ability to adapt, think creatively, and act with moral courage. Ethan had quietly demonstrated these qualities again and again, earning her trust and admiration in a way that no alien suitor had managed. She began to wonder how many other human qualities she had underestimated, qualities that might be valuable not just in competition, but in life and leadership. The alien suitors, frustrated by their repeated failures, began to view Ethan with suspicion and resentment. Some whispered among themselves, questioning why a human, a supposedly primitive being, could outperform the galaxy's elite. Others tried to copy his strategies, but their reliance on brute force or rigid procedures caused them to fail. Ethan remained calm, never boasting or mocking, only focusing on observation and problem-solving. One evening, after another long day of trials, Lyra invited Ethan to walk with her along the palace's floating bridges. The city shimmered beneath them, glowing in the soft light of Zyphora's moons. "You continue to exceed expectations," she said softly. "Even I underestimated you." Ethan looked at her, his expression composed. "Perhaps it is because humans are used to facing challenges with limited resources. We must rely on observation, adaptability, and understanding. It may appear simple, but it is often effective." Lyra smiled faintly, appreciating his humility. Their walks became a private ritual. Lyra found herself seeking Ethan's perspective on challenges, strategies, and even simple matters of life. She realized that his calm reasoning and clear thinking were refreshing in a court filled with arrogance, pride, and rigid expectations. She began to trust his judgment and value his presence, not merely as a participant in the tournament, but as someone whose insights and courage were rare and important. The most demanding challenge of all was announced next, a real-time crisis simulation that combined physical endurance, strategy, and ethical decision-making. Participants were transported to a virtual environment where they faced a rapidly escalating emergency on a distant planet. Natural disasters threatened the population, and decisions had to be made quickly to save lives while maintaining fairness and justice. The alien suitors immediately divided into factions, arguing over strategy and attempting to assert control. Ethan remained calm, analyzing the situation step by step. He prioritized the most urgent needs, delegating tasks based on observation and skill rather than status or ego. When unexpected events occurred, he adapted without hesitation, balancing efficiency with compassion. His leadership was quiet but effective, and soon those who had been skeptical of him began to follow his example. Lyra observed, impressed. Ethan's approach contrasted sharply with the arrogance and rigidity of the aliens. His ability to adapt, think critically, and act with moral courage was precisely what she had been searching for in a worthy companion, not only as a suitor, but as a partner who could rise to challenges with intelligence and heart. As the simulation concluded successfully, Lyra felt a deep sense of respect and admiration. Ethan had once again demonstrated that human ingenuity, resilience, and empathy could exceed expectations, even in a galaxy of advanced civilizations. She realized that her earlier assumptions about humans had been narrow and incomplete. He had caught her off guard not through strength or display, but through intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. That night, Lyra and Ethan met once more on the palace balcony. The city below glowed with soft lights, and the sky shimmered with the colors of Zyphora's twin moons. "You continue to surprise me," Lyra said softly. "I expected humans to be limited in what they could achieve." But you think in ways that challenge even the most advanced minds here. Ethan smiled faintly. Perhaps humans are underestimated because we are different. We must adapt and think creatively, and we must care about outcomes. It may not be flashy, but it is effective. Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Their conversations continued, growing deeper and more personal. Lyra realized that she was drawn not only to his mind, but to his perspective, his calm confidence, and his respect for others. She found herself questioning her own assumptions about leadership, worth, and connection. Ethan, in turn, admired her intelligence, courage, and determination, recognizing qualities in her that went far beyond royal status. The alien suitors, increasingly frustrated by their repeated failures, became more desperate. Some tried to sabotage Ethan, but his careful observation and quick thinking allowed him to anticipate and avoid their attempts. Lyra noticed these efforts, and rather than anger, she felt a growing sense of protectiveness toward him. He had earned her respect, and she would not allow anyone to diminish his achievements or integrity. As the tournament progressed, it became clear to everyone that Ethan was no ordinary competitor. He was not the strongest or the most technologically advanced, but he consistently solved problems in ways the elite aliens could not. He combined intelligence, adaptability, courage, and empathy, a combination that made him uniquely capable. Lyra realized that this was precisely the kind of mind and heart she had been seeking, even if she had not recognized it before. By the end of the third week, the tournament was entering its final stages. Lyra found herself reflecting on everything she had observed and learned. Ethan had caught her off guard not once, but repeatedly, challenging her assumptions and earning her admiration in ways she could not ignore. She felt a growing connection to him, a mixture of respect, curiosity, and something deeper she could not yet name. The final trial of Part 3 was announced, a combined challenge of moral judgment, strategy, and physical skill. Contestants were tasked with leading a rescue operation in a virtual environment where both people and resources were limited. The aliens attempted to dominate the situation with force or technological advantage, while Ethan approached it calmly, prioritizing critical needs, analyzing potential risks, and adjusting strategies in real time. Lyra watched closely, her heart racing. Ethan's leadership was quiet but unmistakably effective. He coordinated participants, anticipated problems, and found solutions that others had overlooked. By the end of the trial, he had achieved results far beyond what any of the alien suitors could manage. For the first time, Lyra felt that she was seeing not only a worthy competitor, but a being whose perspective and abilities could change her understanding of the galaxy itself. A human had shown her that ingenuity, courage, empathy, and adaptability, qualities she had long valued, could exist in ways she had never expected, and in doing so he had caught her completely off guard. As the sun set behind the floating towers of Zyphora, casting golden light across the city, Lyra and Ethan stood together on a balcony overlooking the tournament grounds. "You continue to amaze me," Lyra said softly, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. "I cannot predict what you will do next, and perhaps that is what makes you remarkable." Ethan smiled gently. "Perhaps it is because humans often cannot predict their own limits. We try and we adapt and we learn. It may seem small, but it can achieve much." Lyra nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. The tournament was not yet over, but Lyra knew one thing for certain. Ethan had changed the way she saw the world herself and even the concept of worth. He had caught her off guard, not with force or status, but with thought, courage, and heart. And as she watched him, quietly observing the grounds below, she wondered what might come next, and whether a human could truly earn her trust, respect, and perhaps even something more. The final day of the tournament arrived, and Zyphora's floating city buzzed with anticipation. Beams of sunlight shimmered off the glass towers, reflecting the iridescent colors of the clouds. Contestants from distant worlds had gathered, and spectators filled the arenas, eager to witness the last challenges. But all eyes, both public and private, were on Princess Lyra and the human, Ethan. His calm confidence and consistent ingenuity had captivated not only the princess but the galaxy itself, and now the question lingered. Would he rise to the final trial? The final challenge was announced with great ceremony. Contestants were to face a complex combination of physical obstacles, strategic puzzles, and moral dilemmas in a simulated planetary crisis. The goal was to save a colony from imminent disaster, manage limited resources, and negotiate peace between rival factions, all at once. Many alien suitors were visibly anxious. Their advanced technology, strength, and status could not guarantee success. They relied on brute force or protocol, while the unpredictability of the simulation demanded creativity, quick thinking, and empathy. Ethan entered the simulation with his usual calm demeanor. He did not boast or make grand gestures. Instead, he observed the environment carefully, noting patterns in the storm, the movement of the factions, and the available resources. He mapped out a plan quietly in his mind, anticipating problems before they arose. Lyra watched from the control balcony above, her heart pounding with anticipation and curiosity. She had come to admire him deeply, but now she realized she had never truly seen the full extent of his skill. The simulation began. Lightning flashed across the virtual skies, gusts of wind threatened to destabilize the structures, and the rival factions began arguing and making irrational decisions. Many of the alien contestants panicked, attempting to control the factions with authority or force. Ethan, by contrast, remained composed. He approached each group, listening carefully to their concerns and proposing solutions that balanced fairness, logic, and compassion. He adjusted plans as new obstacles appeared, showing flexibility and foresight the others could not match. Lyra's eyes followed his every move. She noticed the subtle ways he communicated with both factions, calming their fears and earning their trust. He anticipated their reactions, finding creative solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable. While the alien contestants struggled to adapt, Ethan's combination of intelligence, empathy, and calm decision-making allowed him to guide the situation toward success. At one point, a critical energy supply became unstable, threatening the entire colony. The alien suitors hesitated, unsure how to stabilize it without harming anyone. Ethan acted immediately. He analyzed the energy flow, devised a quick solution using available resources, and coordinated with both factions to implement it safely. Within moments, the crisis was averted. The audience erupted in applause, though many were still shocked that a human, so different from their own species, had achieved what none of the elite aliens could. The simulation continued with other moral challenges. Contestants faced choices where saving one group might endanger another. Many of the alien suitors relied on rigid rules or self-interest to make decisions. Ethan, however, considered the broader consequences of each choice. He looked for solutions that minimized harm and maximized fairness, showing patience and careful thought. His approach was deliberate but effective, balancing speed and accuracy under extreme pressure. Lyra could not take her eyes off him. Every step he took, every decision he made, revealed a combination of courage, intelligence, and moral clarity she had never fully seen in anyone else. Her admiration deepened into something more personal, respect blended with curiosity, and curiosity with trust. She realized that he had earned her attention and her confidence in a way that no one else ever had. When the final task of the simulation concluded, Ethan had not only stabilized the colony and resolved conflicts, but he had done so with a calm authority that inspired those around him. The other contestants were exhausted, frustrated, or in disbelief at their own failures. Ethan, in contrast, remained composed, analyzing the situation and helping those who had struggled. His quiet competence had outshone everyone else. Lyra descended to the arena to meet him. The crowd parted as she approached, murmuring in amazement at the sight of the princess walking toward the human who had captured her attention. Ethan bowed respectfully. "Princess," he said, his voice calm yet sincere, "I have done my best. I hope it meets your expectations." Lyra studied him, feeling a mixture of pride, admiration, and something deeper she could not yet name. "You have exceeded every expectation," she said softly, "not only in this tournament, but in everything you have shown me. Your intelligence, courage, and empathy are remarkable. You have earned respect that few beings in this galaxy ever achieve." Ethan smiled faintly. "I am grateful, Princess. I only tried to observe, understand, and act carefully. I did not expect recognition, but I am honored." The Royal Council convened to announce the results. Lyra listened as each alien suitor was discussed, their achievements and failures weighed. When the time came to announce the winner, all eyes were on the princess. With a calm, clear voice, she addressed the assembly. "The tournament has revealed much," Lyra began. "It has shown the strengths and weaknesses of those who seek to earn my favor. It has also reminded me that greatness is not always measured by status, power, or advanced technology. True skill and courage are shown in adaptability, thought, and the choices we make when faced with uncertainty. For this reason, the contestant who has most impressed me and who has earned my respect beyond measure is Ethan of Earth." A hush fell over the assembly. The alien suitors murmured in disbelief, some with frustration, others with begrudging admiration. Humans were rare in the galaxy, and few expected them to compete with Zyphora's elite. Yet here stood one who had not only competed but excelled in every aspect, surpassing expectations with intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. Lyra turned to Ethan. "You have caught me off guard more than once," she said. "Not through display of strength or status, but through your mind, your heart, and your courage. I value those qualities above all else, and I hope you will accept my acknowledgement and respect." Ethan bowed deeply, humbled. "I accept, Princess, and I am honored beyond words." The crowd erupted in applause, some astonished at her choice, others inspired by it. For many, this was a lesson. Strength alone is not enough. Ingenuity, empathy, and courage are just as powerful, perhaps even more so. Lyra and Ethan had demonstrated that humans, though young and seemingly limited, could achieve greatness through thought, creativity, and moral courage. After the formalities, Lyra and Ethan walked together across the palace bridges, the city glowing softly beneath them. The air was warm with the glow of Zyphora's moons, and the floating towers shimmered with light. "You have changed the way I see the galaxy," Lyra said quietly. "I had my standards, my expectations, my assumptions about what it takes to be worthy. You have challenged all of them, and in doing so, you have earned my trust and respect." Ethan smiled gently. "I only acted as I thought best. Perhaps humans are underestimated because we approach challenges differently. We adapt, observe, and care. That is what I could offer." Lyra looked at him, feeling a warmth she had never felt before. She realized that her fascination with him was more than admiration. It was trust, connection, and the spark of something deeper. In the days that followed, the city of Zyphora began to recognize the value of humans in a new light. Alien suitors who had doubted Ethan's abilities slowly acknowledged his ingenuity, courage, and leadership. Princess Lyra spoke openly of the lessons she had learned, emphasizing that greatness could come from unexpected places, and that adaptability, moral courage, and intelligence were qualities that mattered more than status or technology. Ethan, for his part, continued to act with humility and integrity. He did not flaunt his success or claim superiority. Instead, he offered guidance and insight wherever he could, helping the city's leaders and citizens learn from his approach. His human perspective became a symbol of potential, showing that even those from seemingly small or primitive worlds could rise to meet the greatest challenges. Lyra and Ethan spent time together discussing strategy, ethics, and the future of Zyphora. She found herself seeking his counsel not only in matters of governance and diplomacy, but also in understanding the broader galaxy. Their connection deepened, built on mutual respect, admiration, and shared curiosity. She realized that he was more than a contestant or a suitor. He was a partner in thought and action, someone whose mind and heart she valued above all else. The tournament had concluded, and the alien suitors had returned to their worlds, humbled and reflective. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out at the city and the horizon beyond. Beside her, Ethan watched the same view, quietly sharing the moment. They had both faced challenges, surprises, and uncertainties. Together, they had shown that courage, intelligence, empathy, and adaptability were more powerful than technology, status, or tradition alone. As the sun set and the city glowed beneath the clouds, Lyra felt a sense of hope and possibility. The future was uncertain, as all futures are, but for the first time she felt confident that humans, and particularly this human, could rise to meet it. Ethan had caught her off guard, challenged her assumptions, and earned her admiration and trust. The galaxy might never see another combination of qualities like his again, and she knew she would treasure the lessons he had taught her. Lyra turned to him, her silver hair catching the last rays of sunlight. "You have done more than compete," she said softly. "You have changed the way I see the galaxy, and perhaps even the way I see myself." Ethan smiled, humbled and thoughtful. "I only tried to act with thought and care. If that has value, then I am grateful." They stood together as the city lights shimmered and the sky darkened, knowing that this was not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. The tournament had proven more than skill and courage. It had proven that humans could achieve greatness through ingenuity, empathy, and heart. And in the quiet glow of Zyphora's floating city, Princess Lyra and Ethan both realized that the galaxy had never seen anything quite like what they might accomplish together. The story of the human who caught an alien princess off guard spread throughout Zyphora and beyond, inspiring countless beings across the stars. But for Lyra and Ethan, the most important lesson was personal. Greatness was not defined by origin, power, or expectation. It was defined by courage, intelligence, and heart, and by the willingness to rise to challenges no matter how unlikely they seemed. Together, they looked toward the horizon, ready to face the future with curiosity, respect, and the extraordinary potential of human ingenuity.